What's going on, guys? Back today with another video, and today I have planned to do something a little different. So recently on my Instagram story, I asked all of you guys to give me questions or and ask me anything that I would make into a video, and we're gonna go over all the responses that I got today because I actually got a good amount of responses. So I want to thank you guys for giving me all of these questions because a lot of them are really, really good questions, and hopefully I can answer them to the best of my ability. The first question I want to start with is, what would you say is the core philosophy of your musical project? Is there one? And I have it in my bios across all of my accounts, and my Bandcamp, my Twitter, my Instagram, where it's just for fun. The main idea of the whole musical project and me doing music in the first place is to have fun. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't doing this for fun. I could never do this as a job. I wouldn't put out half the stuff that I put out if it was for a job. I think having to do this with some deadlines or requirements would it would take a lot of the actual creativity out of it, as like I said, you're just hitting deadlines and it just become really stale and boring. So keeping it to be for fun, I think, is a good motivator for me to actually continue to do it and actually enjoy doing it, because if I'm not having fun, I don't think I'd actually make music at all, because it would just become really tedious and really draining. And I try to keep that in the back of my mind with every album that I do, whether the album is really, really sad, or it's, obviously really upbeat. The whole goal with all of it is to have fun. Even if I'm trying to deliver some sort of message with the album, I'm still gonna have fun making it. And I think that's something that I put on early on, and I think with how early on that I put it, I've been able to follow through with it very well, and it's been something that's allowed me to develop a much better sense of community, knowing that I'm doing all of this to have fun. And I think it is a great way to build yourself to have some sort of career in anything, is to have fun. Because if you're not having fun, are you really doing it, or are you just doing it to do it, right? So that's probably the real just core philosophy of everything. You strip everything else away from what I'm doing. The whole idea behind all of this is to simply have fun. Next up, how do you approach each new project? Do you create the concept as you go, or do you think of it first? Since the start of my since I started making music, I think I've had a really good advantage of coming up with concepts, because ever since my first album, a lot of the concepts ended up being predetermined. With my first album, the concept for that album was something that I was going to use for a completely different musical project, but I had stopped doing it a while ago. And then once I started getting into Slush Wave, after making my first two songs, I realized, I have this album concept just sitting here. I can just convert this over to be about Slush Wave, and I'll use this to be my intro album. And that's how I got the concept for A Star Is Born. And I'm, first of all, very proud of that concept. I think it was a very good introductory album to be Star Is Born, using it to be my intro to the scene, using the Weeknd cover, because that's when he also was first breaking out with Kissland. It just ended up coming together very perfectly. And ever since doing that, I've just kind of gone with that same idea of just having the concept in my mind before I start either before I start or during making the music. Like for my next for the album immediately after that, for DJ Patara, that was something that me and Hayden had premeditated long before we'd even started making music. Like before we'd ever learned how to even use FL, we were talking about, yeah, we should make an album together, have it be called DJ Patara, since we both, at the time we both loved Dragon Ball, and we still do, like deeply. And with that, we held on to that, and then it came back around once we started making Slush Wave, and it came together really well. And I had so much fun. Hayden, not so much. Like he always tells me that that period of his life while we were making that album, it was awful, and it definitely was. But I had a lot of fun making that album, and it turned out very well, and it ended up turning a lot of heads to what we were doing. Like I think most notably, like eMZiL had said that he started like really paying attention to the both of us when that album came out, and I think that's something that really like resonated with me. And ever since like those early days, I say early days as if it wasn't like less than a year ago, I've had the concept for the album. I'll usually either think of it like on a whim, like if I'm out like walking the dog or if I'm in the shower, or I'll come up with it after making a song, and I'm like, okay, I can do something, like I can make a whole album with this. Like for the most recent album with The Wither, I had made the intro song. I made that and was like, yo, I could do probably a whole album out of songs similar to this. And that's kind of how the bass line of the album came together, and then I ended up making the rest of the songs, at least the solo songs, more so about every single song represented like a really like negative emotion that I was feeling when I was making the song. So I think it ended up reflecting extremely well in every single song, and even with some of the feature songs, I think that feeling is exacerbated very well. And I just think concept making is something that I've low-key always been pretty good at, because I think a lot. For better or for worse, I'm like almost always thinking about something, whether it be something IRL or something that, has to do with music. And I think it becomes a very easy tool to actually world build what's gonna go on within albums. And it's a skill that I'm very proud of having, and it's something I've had developed for years. And I'm just glad that it's, becoming a lot more useful in making actual music. Is there a philosophical underlining to any of your albums or overarching emotions? Most definitely, and it's honestly been that way since the beginning. Like, with The Star Is Born, obviously, like I just mentioned, most of it is about, being new, being a newcomer to the scene, breaking out, and a lot of it is maybe not so dealing with the fame, because I mean, what fame is there to really deal with? I guess more so just dealing with new attention and stuff like that. And with that concept, it's mainly built around someone, getting their first gig and performing to like their first like audience. The album is me performing to my first bigger audience within music. And with the Korean album, a lot of it was, kind of going through just, kind of just traveling through South Korea. But then the very final song is sort of flashing to like finishing the South Korea trip, and then sort of flashing to what it would be like to maybe be in North Korea. Really, I got that funny. I think I've mentioned it before, but a really funny thing is I got the idea for that song from a tweet. I don't know if I'll be able to find that tweet again, but it was really funny. But the first, I think, really big philosophical, I guess, undertaking that I took within an album was well, before I'll mention that, I do want to mention Escape from Long Ago. Like that is kind of reflecting back on, how Florida used to be. And like I mentioned, and when I've been asked about it before, obviously I was nowhere near the state when a lot of the samples I used were taking place. But it's really mainly about the how like the state used to be, kind of just how much has changed since then. A lot of the, I guess, empty promises that were given, especially with the outro track. I think the outro track is probably the most powerful example of that sort of, I guess, philosophical underlining, because it talks about how the state planned to run on nuclear power, and it's like very hopeful that it'll continue, but as we know, that just did not turn out to be the case. And Hayden says it often, it ends up being really, really sad how it just never went through, and I agree. But like I was gonna say, the first really big philosophical, I guess, exploration that I took within music was "Ode to a Frozen Soul," and that's why that album probably resonates with me still the deepest, even almost a year on, is because the main idea with that album was dealing with how bad my situation was when I was going to university in person, and how I basically almost died while doing it. It was and a lot of it is just, it's meant to be a reflection of what happened, what went on, and the and kind of coming to reconcile with the choices that I made, and that to kind of looking forward, and that ends up connecting with Wither, because with Ode to a Frozen Soul, that's kind of dealing with like coming to terms with and accepting the past choices that led me to where I am right now. And Wither is more dealing with the present emotions of the aftermath of that, the present emotions of things that are going on right now, in due part to a lot of the decisions I made when that album was supposed to be taking place. And it becomes like, once I like kind of like, I'm like vocalizing these feelings, it ends up becoming, a little harder to maybe like go back and hear some of those songs, like especially the like 29-minute epic that's on Ode to a Frozen Soul. The way that I decided to use a song that was very very big part of my childhood, which is because it samples the Snow Point City theme from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, and I just turned that into just like just an extremely long ballad of how it really felt just being stuck. I guess not stuck, but just left there. It's just me in the cold, and not like just nothing else. And it is really hard, I guess, so to speak, looking back on it. But it's kind of like a good and sort of grim reminder that like I really could just not be here right now. So I'm very lucky to still, actually be here and still be able to make Ode to a Frozen Soul, and to be able to look back on that with a deep reflection and understand where I've gotten to since then. It's very how do I say it? It's very, I don't even it's hard. And it's probably even harder with the songs on Wither, because now that I'm past dealing with the I've kind of accepted the traumas, not that I've fully healed from them, but I've accepted them, I've internalized them, I've used them to reflect very often. But then with Wither, that's in the present, that's now. And a lot of those feelings I still feel very strongly, even after making the songs. And when I listen back to them and the listening parties that I've done for the album, like they still are like very, very ever present, especially like tracks like track 5 or track 11, track 16. Like those 3 songs, I think in particular, are probably the most ever present from that album. And it's very interesting to kind of reflect on these, because they're, like I said, they're what I'm feeling right now, and they're a byproduct of the things that happened in Ode to a Frozen Soul. And it's it's tough. Obviously, it's very tough. Like, I definitely think that I have sort of a lot of unanswered questions from Ode to a Frozen Soul, and I think it reflects very, very hard in like a lot of the dreams that I end up having, a lot of the lucid dreams, because it ends up being about, like, it involves school almost every single time, which is it's really creepy, but it makes a lot of sense. Like it'll involve school or people that I knew from school, whether that be university or high school. And with Wither, it's really just it's a lot, right? It's a lot, and I just hope that the main goal with both of those albums is that I hope that it's able to reach people that were maybe feeling the same way, or are feeling the same way currently, and that they're used to help in that journey of like reflection, realization, because that's how a lot of the slush wave that I was discovering when I was in university helped me. Like the first song from the Nether album that dropped on my birthday, that song was like the anthem to a lot of the lonely nights that I spent, just walking around campus. And I really hope that my music can do that for someone else. That's probably one of my like big goals in making albums like this with these like philosophical undertones. Now this is a good one. Do you plan on covering anything political within your vaporwave production? If so, how? Now, I'm not going to leak anything because yes, obviously the answer is yes, but I have multiple albums that are both complete and in the process of being made that are gonna go over these topics. And the main way, because 2 of them are signal wave and one of them is slush wave, which will use it more as like undertones, but it's easy to do with signal wave because you're able to utilize a lot of like broadcasts and voice clips. So I think that in that way it'll be able to very obviously get my point across. But yes, and that's especially the theme with one of them. But then another one, which is more like computer gazy, will use a lot more just like isolated not isolated samples, how do I describe it? More like isolated instrumentals to sort of go over the theme that I'm going for. I don't know when that one's gonna come out, but the other one that uses the more vocal samples will be coming out in July. I can say that for sure because it's done, but it will be coming out in July. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And if you're a little more in the know, you'll be able to deduce when it'll drop. And it really is just mainly, what's like, I guess, sample choices, the context behind the samples, and especially with like the titles and the covers. That's more so the main way that I'll be able to incorporate all that stuff into it. And I try to sort of incorporate that into I guess all of my music, it's not as blatant or it's not as obvious with some other albums, but you can very easily, with a little bit of digger or a little bit of deeper digging, you can deduce a lot of the, I guess, like overarching political themes within the albums. So yeah, I definitely keep an eye out for that because there's going to be some very, very politically charged music coming in the future. Do you have any non-musical interests that influence your music? Absolutely. The main one and obvious one is anime because the likeness of my entire persona is Itachi, which is from Naruto, and a lot of my covers are sourced from anime. Like obviously, Wither is sourced from again Naruto, DJ Patara is sourced from Dragon Ball. I have a concept album that I have sourced from a scene in JJK. I feel like there's another one that I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, the Akatsuki album series again, also Naruto. But like, and one of the songs on Hoenn and Tadame samples the intro from Yu Yu Hakusho. So there's a lot. Like I've loved anime for ever since I was a child, and it's been something that I've found a lot of, I guess, solace in. It's also something that I've just greatly enjoyed. It's just a very good, it's a very nice medium to enjoy. Very nice visually, very great storytelling, and it is definitely a major, major influence that's non-music related. And outside of anime, I would definitely say game-wise, it would be Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is probably it's my favorite game of all time, and it's probably the biggest influence when it comes to the type of visuals I want to make, because with a lot of I have a mod within Cyberpunk where I can make my own radio, and I would add a plethora of like slush wave and vaporwave to it, and because it just fits the world, so it fits the world so well. Like there's one album, it's Selected Works by Counting Sheep. That album feels like it would be found within the Cyberpunk universe. It is literally it's perfect. If you play the games, that would make perfect sense to you as well. But and yeah, in terms of visuals, the Cyberpunk is probably the biggest influence. I'd probably say I'm not sure if it's as influential as Cyberpunk, but I would also definitely say the Persona series is definitely a big influence. I'm not sure, I guess, exactly how, but I would definitely be cheaping out if I didn't mention it. And my interest in just like the world in general is a very big a very big driving factor behind my music, because obviously with being so interested in a lot of things like worldwide, being sort of, I guess, an internationalist, it opens up a lot of different places to look for samples from, and that's been that was the big thing for the Korean album, and for the Chinese album Overnight Business. Like, I don't think I would have came up with those ideas if I wasn't someone who was so interested in things outside of America, outside of my state. And that is probably, that would, I guess, next to anime, that would probably be the biggest influence non-musically, is my interest since young child of the rest of the world. Like when I was a kid, it's probably in my room somewhere, but I used to have an atlas of the world, and I would always look through that I would always be super interested in any maps that I saw, whether it be in school or out and about. Like the history was like one of my favorite subjects, if not my favorite subject in school. So all of those things come together, I think, kind of perfectly represents the non-musical interests that have a very big influence on everything that I do. How do you believe slush wave could advance as a genre regarding experimentation? Oh, that's a good one. I I think the main thing especially when it comes to the artists that are sampled is just sampling newer stuff, you know? Sampling stuff that isn't just from the 70s and 80s, you know? Come up to the 90s sometimes, maybe even the 2000s or 2010s, you know? Like there's a lot of there's a lot of gold, right? It doesn't just have to be 80s J-pop, but again, that's not indicative of um the whole scene. That's mainly uh I guess more of the people who still stick to the, I guess, the classic sound. But we see it in obviously newer samples, but then a good amount of the new experimentation is going to come with the sample free artists, or the artists that are able to, stem split and combine different parts of samples, or just combine samples in general. Like I think a big example of artists combining samples is Pearly Palpasat by Days of Blue Skies and Desert Sin. That album is, not only is it extremely good, but it does a very good job of combining different samples through like stem splitting to create like entirely new sounds that even the original sample couldn't have. Like that is a big frontier of experimentation that could come. And then when it comes to sample free, like there's obviously just like infinite possibilities. Like a good thing that I've mentioned a lot is that there isn't, I think people should like incorporate a lot more like hip hop within slush wave. And I've seen it be done with the Megastructure series by tephh. Both of those albums are insanely good, and it obviously combines two of my favorite things right now, which is hip hop and slush wave. And both of them are just amazing. And again, you can even come to like the more glitchy, like you can even incorporate, I guess, more like glitchy stuff even in slush wave. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be like the super slowed, super ambient, like kind of guess not default, but I guess kind of like if you were to ask someone what slush wave is, they'd give you just that. It can be a lot more. There's a lot more that you can do, and I guess I sort of went that way on Wither, with having a lot more like hip hop, trap, like a lot more like 808s, more like more new gen samples. It's there's a lot of room to have a lot more stuff within the genre, and you even see it in like incorporating things such as like house and techno with things like Gofa's and Hayden's Millennium House. You see it with Feel Haze Form. You can see it with a lot of Regretful Lovers discography. Like there's the best thing about slush wave is how easy it's able to just branch off into new stuff. And with the more new artists that come into the scene, it becomes more new ideas that get brought into like the zeitgeist, right? But then at the same time, I do want to say that it's the experimentation is only going to come if that experimentation is, praised. Like the stuff that Days of Blue Skies is doing is ridiculous. Like that recent album that he did, crazy. I forgot which song it was, but one of those songs like that is like a contender for my song of the year. It is so good and it's wild what he's doing. If you aren't tapped in, you need to tap in. That is unbelievable artist and a great guy. But that stuff is not gonna happen if we aren't like pushing it to the forefront, you know. If we're just gonna continue to push just like one avenue of the sound, or continue to prop up like the classic sound like it's like just like the greatest thing ever, we're not gonna have people do the experimentation, because they're gonna get discouraged, because they're gonna think, oh, people aren't gonna listen to this because it doesn't sound like this, right? So we have to do better in propping up the people who are trying something different, because otherwise it'll just be discouraged, and we'll just stick with that same classic sound that we've had for a while. And that's not, and I want to big PSA that this is not to say that that sound is bad. I very much enjoy that sound, but at the same time, now that I'm an artist, I do want to see the more experimentation, which I will obviously continue to do, and I will also continue to prop up others doing it. So this is not any sort of call out, but just know that we have to be better as a community in sort of propping up this experimentation, instead of defaulting to the same three people that are making the classic sound. But that's the main way we're gonna actually advance the genre in terms of experimenting. We have to allow the people to come up with new ideas. We have to allow ourselves to push the boundaries of what we use as samples, what we create as sample-free music, but we also have to prop up that stuff whenever it comes out, and not fall back into the echo chamber of the same people doing the same thing. So that's my sort of piece on being able to do more with in terms of experimentation. How do you plan on progressing your aesthetic and image within Slushwave? I think a lot of it is going to come from doing visualizers. That's definitely going to build more of an image for myself. And ever since doing the Cloudpunk set, I've like vastly improved on making visuals. And I you can see it in one of my Instagram posts that I made rather recently, that I've done ever since doing that Cloudpunk video, the Cloudpunk set. I've done much more when it comes to visuals, and maybe I should probably look to do visuals for other people, because every time I've done visuals, say for other people, they've said it looked really good. So it's like I probably should look into doing visuals for other people. I just don't know how I'd go about necessarily doing that, or if I'd want to be, or I want to open myself up to doing that, because I mean I very much enjoy making them. They're really fun to make, especially with my own music, and even with other people's music. Like there's one song that Gofa has for an upcoming URL fest that's gonna be, I don't know when this video is gonna come out, but within the coming days of me recording this, it'll come out. And not only is that song, I think, ridiculous, but I think the visuals I did for it perfectly represent the song. And I guess that's more so to do with like the aesthetics of it. And then with the image, like I talked about this in a previous video that you should definitely check out, but my image is mainly just going to be maintained by, you know, the character that I continue to put out on this channel within public servers, you know. Like my image is just going to continue to really just be me, right? I don't want to, I've thought about this recently. I don't want to become that artist where it's like, oh, like the music is good, but like what they say, you know, it's a little iffy, right? Like I don't want that to happen to me, and I would much prefer that to never happen to me. And that's why I carry myself in a way that what I say does not need to be separated from what I do. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I say should be taken in account with what I do. So, the actions should match the words to match the actions, that sort of thing. And it's definitely gonna continue to be that way as I continue to, grow older, grow more knowledgeable on certain things. Like that stuff will continue to shape and morph, but the core things will stay the same. Like from the earlier question, like it's gonna continue to be about having fun, making music, making visualizers, talking to people, collabing with people, right? I don't want any of that to become jeopardized because of the things that I believe in. And those things that I believe in are things that most people should believe in. But but like basically my image will match, I guess, the aesthetics that I go for. And if in a simple way of putting it, they aren't gonna be like me the person and me the artist are not going to be these two different people. Like the artist, me as an artist is simply an extension of me as a person. So those things are going to forever stay connected, and in my opinion they should forever be connected whenever it comes to this sort of stuff. But obviously people have differing opinions when it comes to that, but that's how I really view things, and I think viewing it like that will allow you to bring much more, I guess, valid, like not only criticism but much more like valid like analysis of like the work that artist does, because you'll be able to understand like their influences, you'll be able to understand like their viewpoints and see how that influences what they do. So really the progress that comes within the aesthetic and the image is really just progress that comes from me bettering myself as a person, so to speak. What is your experience with imposter syndrome in music, and how do you deal with it? This question's an interesting one because I'm usually the one that has to sort of help people whenever it comes to imposter syndrome. Like with Hayden and Gofa, I'm always telling them how you need to. I always have to, I guess, explain to them how you can't compare yourself to others, because then you're gonna it'll become much harder to make stuff when you're constantly in comparison with others. And that's something that I started off by doing, uh even when it didn't come to music. Like when it just came to life, I just didn't I never was someone that would, I guess, compare myself with others. And the only times I would do that, it would be whenever, I was I was going through it. Like I definitely remember there was a time in middle school where I would compare. I was like comparing myself to like the stuff that like one of my good friends at the time had, and it was just after talking to her for a bit, I realized like, yeah, this is just a really toxic. It's a really toxic way of thinking. It's extremely self-destructive as well, and it'll stunt a lot of what you want to do within within whatever you pursue. So the big thing when it comes to it is I guess more so I guess I do have a song on Wither that's literally titled Imposter Syndrome, but that's less so to do with I guess music and more so to do with stuff that when it comes to, I guess, my personal life, which I won't discuss that side of it too much here. But it's it's important to know that you need to be yourself when it comes to any sort of artistic endeavor. You need to be yourself, you need to focus on yourself, and you cannot fall into the trap of constantly comparing, because then you start to fall into the trap of self-deprecation. And not only to me personally is like the self-deprecation thing, it's really it's really annoying to see, especially whenever I can very obviously tell that person is extremely talented. It just becomes that much more annoying when they do it. And it's just like, especially when it's done like out in the open as well, like, you can't be doing that. It's just gonna it's kind of like that image where it's like, it's like, oh, it's so over, oh, we're so back, oh, it's so over. It's like, I can't do like the constant like up and down with that sort of stuff. You need to have a baseline to know, like, okay, I can do this right now, and if I can't do what I'm trying to do, I need to continue to work to get better at what I do. Like, I haven't like, there were multiple instances where people would say stuff in regards to my music where I'd just be like, huh, interesting. Like, I wouldn't like go out at them, I guess, or like kind of like snap their hand off, but like I would just internalize what they said, like, all right, I guess I need to just get better, and I went and got better. So it's it can be a sort of motivator, but the problem becomes when it starts to overtake a lot of the it starts to overtake a lot of your mental space with just comparing, oh, I need to be as good as X, oh, I wish I was as good as Y, oh, Z is so much better at this, I can't compete. Like, that, the comparison stuff, it drives me it drives me insane, honestly. I get so sick and tired of hearing it. And like, I understand how valid, I the feelings are to an extent valid, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, you can't constantly do this, or else it's just, not only is it going to get really annoying, like I already said, you're not going to actually grow. You're just going to continue to trap yourself in this idea of, oh, I could be so much better, oh, I could do this so much better, instead of just like sitting down with yourself and appreciating whatever progress that you can make or you will make. It cuts that off completely, and I just, it is something it bothers me a lot. Okay, it bothers me a lot. A lot of it does have to come with, I guess, personal image, but I just I really need everyone here to understand that yes, you can do better, but you can't do better by constantly comparing yourself to other people who may be in like higher positions, or else you're just gonna forever be chasing, and you'll never be satisfied. So you can't do that. You can't do that to yourself at all. And there's obviously a point where it will be, I guess, unavoidable, but it matters how you respond to it at the end of the day. If your response is self-deprecation, you're never going to grow at all. But if your response is to internalize everything and then commit yourself to improving, commit yourself to growth, then the sky is not even the sky, like the universe is your limit at that point. What failure in life taught you the most about your musicianship / craft? Honestly, I would probably go back to my experience at uni in person. That it probably, the big thing it taught me was that, I guess, the privilege of being able to do certain things, and that it's, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that you got there, it matters how you carry yourself once you're there, you know. And now that I'm in the position of being at Social 2026, I have to, continue to show that I really, deserved to actually be there. I have to continue to exemplify, the community that I've gone and put on my back to be there, because like I said, you guys, not it. Yes, I'm the one that did the music and stuff, but it's you guys. You guys are my camera is not on, but you guys are the reason that I am at Social 2026. The support that you guys have shown me and the outreach that you guys have given me through listening to the music, buying the physicals, promoting the music on social media, it is you guys that have put me in that position. So I will be damned. I will be damned if I let you guys down. So I have to do I have to do better, I have to do better. I have to recognize the privilege that's been afforded to me by doing this, and I have to be able to show not only that I deserve to be here in this scene, but I have to show that I deserve to I have to I have to show that I deserve to continue to be in the scene, and I have to show that I deserve to be a voice within the scene, right? I can't, just because I'm here doesn't mean or just because I'm at Social 2026 doesn't mean that I'm now, just above everybody. I'm completely, different, right? It's just not how that works. I have to continue to stay true to my beliefs of everything that I've described so far. I have to continue to be the person that I want to see within the community, and I want be the person that I want others to be in the community. I can't just I'm not gonna just switch up on people just because I've quote unquote made it. Like that's really dumb to me that people have gone as far as to do that to varying extents, and it's just really corny to think like that. Like I am definitely above. I'm long above that idea or that way of thinking. It may sound, I guess, what's the word? It may sound, I guess, arrogant to say, if arrogant's the right word, but I have grown to be above that sort of I guess petty thinking, right? I I have to be better, and I have to learn from the mistakes that I made while being at uni to just do better. Like that's really all what this comes down to. I need to be better whether it comes to being a better person, whether it becomes to improving as an artist. I simply just have to I have to be better, and I have to be, the change that I want to see within the community, right? Because even if I believe in this stuff, I can't be the only person that's doing it, right? I have to be able to motivate others to do what to be that improvement, and to continue to make this community a community for all the new people that end up joining through Social 2026, or through finding out about the artists that are involved in the scene, right? I have to be welcoming, I have to be opening, I have to be that positive figure. But while doing that, I also have to be able, which I have done for quite a while, and this goes to everyone, you have to be able to hold people accountable. That is very important, and it's probably something that I'm going to touch on later, but you need to be able to hold people accountable, whether that be other people and especially yourself. I have to hold myself accountable just as much as I hold other people accountable, all right? It's not a one-way street, all right? This goes both ways. Is a very interesting one. A track from yourself or from others that you may cry to? Well, when it comes to myself, I think the obvious ones are songs from Ode to a Frozen Soul and from Wither. like especially track 5. Like track 5 from Wither, I've said it every single time that I've had a listening party, or we've done listening parties for it, or I've listened back to it whenever I showed other people the song. But like that song genuinely makes me like extremely sad. Despite how happy the song sounds, it just makes me like extremely sad whenever I listen to it, just because of the context of the fact that it's meant to be an allegory for, not only it's an allegory for myself of not feeling like myself, but it's also like it kind of like again, since the song is called Imposter Syndrome, and what the song is, you know, made from, I feel really bad whenever, well, thankfully no one has like specifically said this yet, but like I would just feel really bad whenever someone were to say it's the like, yeah, this is my favorite song. It's like, yeah, it's like it doesn't really feel like it's me that made that song so good. It just feels like, because it's literally, for the people who are, you know, a little more tentative, people will realize that it's just a different rendition of the Summer Lady by not Jade's, I don't know how to say the artist's name, but because it's the same sample that Telepath used on Telepathy, and it's one of my favorite songs of all time. And I mean, like, literally when I was making it, I sat there and had the song like I was sitting there basically like cross-referencing it, but to make it different, I went for the second half, I used a different vocal section and a different chop on that section of the vocals to, you know, make it more unique to me. And then obviously adding the whole meaning behind it with my effects and stuff, it's like, even though, despite how good it sounds, it's just so hard to listen to. Same with the last song on Wither, where when I was making it, as I kept continuing to making it, with the sample I was using, it's the same sample, the same shoutout sample that was used on one of the tracks from Lynn's Heaven Virtual Plaza's, I forget the name of the album, but it's the black and white one. And that was literally one of my first ever experiences in Slushwave, and it's just, it becomes really sad because he's no longer with us, and it's yeah, like, I'm starting to get I'm starting to get upset just like describing both of the songs. It's like, first of all, rest in power to Lynn's Heaven Virtual Plaza. You will forever be with us, forever. That's the GOAT. And damn. And then when it comes to Ode to a Frozen Soul, the 12-minute song is a song I sampled The Noose of Jaw City by King Cruel, because that song was based on the previous relationship that I had and subsequently ruined because of the stuff that I was doing in university and what led me into that situation in the first place. And I would always listen to that song whenever I was like coming back from her dorm. And it's just it's like, it really, that song probably exemplifies the theme of the album. Like the description of the album, it's like, as much as I miss it, I'll never be able to go back. And it's just like, it's just really again, it's like, the song is great. It's just really hard to listen to. But in terms of other artists, I definitely want to highlight the song Radio Silence from Hayden. That song, because it's about how he felt, just that he was like talking to a wall whenever it came to like discussing things with his friends, and that did include me. And I definitely regret but I regret being as distant as I was back during those times of like the old friend group, like a year or two ago, where I felt like I wasn't really listening to what he was saying. Things felt like really distant, and like there were like we had static. Like there was points where he would lash out at me, and rightfully so, because I was not doing as I said. And it was like, it's like, again, like with most of these, it's such a great song, but it like, it does, like, there's a kind of like, you know, it eats away at me having to hear back, knowing that that's the, like, it's not obviously only about me, like, it's about all the other people that were doing something similar, but it does hurt a little extra knowing that I am a part of those people because of how close we are as friends. And yeah, another track, probably the one main one that isn't like from, I guess, the artist space that I know is Fading Away from Beyond Reality. Whenever there was one day where I was driving back from work and I was listening to that song, and it just kind of had me thinking of all of the times that I kind of just let you know, fade away, from whether it be my own actions or the actions of the people that I had to cut off. It's just like it was really, like the song sample, like the sample says, it's sad to see them fade away, bro. Even despite the horrible shit that they did to me, it still sucked losing friends that I had for so long, because they were good friends. Like, that, don't get me wrong, like, when we were friends, like when we were close, they were great friends. But then the decisions that they made, like they constantly, you know, making left turns when we should have went right. It really just sucked to see it kind of devolve and wither away into where we are right now. And I've reflected on that for a very, very long time. Ever since that situation ended, I've thought about it constantly. I've reflected on it constantly, thought about ways that I could have done better within that situation, even though it was mostly, you know, against us. Like, that there are definitely situations where I maybe could have, I guess, carried myself better to better get the point across. But at the end of the day, you can only do so much right if the other party isn't willing to change, right? So that would be for that song. Obviously, the song I mentioned earlier with the Sade sample from that Lynn's Heaven Virtual Plaza album, the same context sort of applies. It's just a song that really makes me like reminisce, and obviously the context of it now that he's no longer with us, it's just it hurts. It really does hurt having to hear both versions, even despite how amazing of songs they are. And then obviously another song that I mentioned earlier from the birthday album, it's more reminiscent of, you know, the times that I kind of just, you know, had to myself, where I would just walk around and just, you know, just think. And I think the biggest one, which I have actually ended up crying to, was I think it's, honestly, I'll just include both track 5 and track 6 from Dawn Till Dusk. Like, those songs, because that album, it really solidified the friendship between me and Hayden. Like, that album is where we like really became like friends when it came out. And I've said this to both Nether and Illusionary's face, like that album literally not only is the reason that I'm here, but it's the reason that I have my best friend. So there was one night where like I was listening to it and I kind of like had a dream where like we had like we finally got to meet in Texas, and it was such a fun time. I I could literally, like, I woke up, I literally just like felt like the tears on my face, like after. It was like, dang, like, dude, oh my god, bro, those songs mean so much to me. That album, I mean, it means so much to me. I have the box set for it. It's like the artist is nothing without that album. Just straight up. I've made that point very clear, but now I'm putting it on record. I would literally be nothing without that album. So thank you to both Another and Illusionary for making that album. But yeah, those would definitely be songs that I have very, very deep emotions with. A very, very interesting question that I got is, why is it the self-centeredness is always mixed up with self-care and self-love? I think the main reason for that is that a lot of people have kind of commandeered this they've commandeered like the therapy speak that, you know, obviously gets used to explain a lot of psychological things. They've commandeered that to mean something completely different from how it's used, you know, within therapy. Like, and the fact that a lot of it is used again by people who are usually it's usually used by people who are just trying to avoid accountability or avoid answering for their mistakes. So that is probably the main thing that comes with the mix up of self-centeredness, because it is basically the language has been commandeered by people trying to absolve themselves from the very obvious wrongs that they've made, and they're masking it as this sort of, oh, I'm, you know, protecting my peace. Oh, I'm just focusing on me, right? And like they're doing that in order to not address the very, 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 very large elephants within the room most of the time. And I know this because it's happened to me on multiple occasions. It's just it's the main it's the main crux of it is that it's just used as a way of avoidance, and it's become a thing where people have kind of excuse me, people have ended up diluting what, you know, self-care actually looks like in order to mask their very obvious shortcomings. Like, this sort of self-care looks like, you know, actually, you know, taking accountability for your actions. You know, it looks like actual personal growth from your mistakes. um it comes from, you know, learning how you can do better as a person, how you can be a better person. It's not avoiding your problems in hopes that they go away. It's not avoiding accountability to hope it all just blows over and people forget about it, right? It's just it's really annoying to see play out in real time, and it's even more annoying when it's being done to you or to people within your vicinity. Eh, it's, trust me, I had to watch it happen over the course of what was it, January, not really, February, March, April, like from February to about like May of last year. So about like 3 to 4 months of just like nonsense, basically, of people just doing all of this to avoid facing the music. And then when it came time to actually face the music, they still like, oh, we can still like compromise. No, no, you cannot. You never compromise on your morals, bro. There's that. Is it? Yeah. See, now I'm thinking more about this question. It's starting to actually like, it's starting to actually make me mad, bro. Oh, I can't do this. But yeah, that's the main reason why they get mixed up, is because people have, I don't like using like TikTokified, because one, I don't even use TikTok, and two, it's just a really I don't even know what the word is to say it. It's just, I think it's just a really dumb way to dumb it down. But yeah, it's basically just like the popular online language has just kind of completely ruined, or completely blurred the lines between being self-centered and someone who's actually taking care of themselves. So, yeah. Another more philosophical question is, what is the relationship between beauty and truth? Now, I do have a video on my channel where I kind of talked about my meaning of life, where I thought, to me at least, that the beauty of life was not the beauty, the meaning of life was to, excuse me, was to know. And that, again, that could apply to knowing any like range of things, whether it be educational, like instruct or educational, like working wise, ability wise. Just the ability to know is what I think makes life like so beautiful. And I think that was probably my answer to this, is that being able to know know the right in certain situations can lead you to, not only can lead to a lot of like beautiful outcomes, like it can open up the world, it can open up the world to you in ways that you would have never really imagined. And it'll allow you to understand a little more, I guess, complex situations, and provide a lot more clarity in certain situations that will allow you to handle yourself a lot better when it comes to things within the real world and within the personal world of your head, right? And there's a lot of beautiful things that you can find by knowing what's right from what's wrong, and it can help you develop much can even help you like develop much better relationships, knowing what to knowing the difference between, like I said, what's right and what's wrong, and deciding, the moral line, like your own moral line for what's right and what's wrong. Because as most things do, people have different, moral lines. There's different areas where people will agree and disagree on, and a lot of that comes to, a lot of lived experience, a lot of taught knowledge about said things. It's different from person to person, but there's a lot of things that we can all, agree on. And I think the beauty within the truth becomes being able to talk about these things and be able to discuss different perspectives to reach a sort of combined truth, if you will, but like a synthesis of ideas between multiple different people, multiple different perspectives, whether they be right or wrong. Like understanding why things are right and figuring out how things are wrong. Like there's so much that goes into it, and I think that's honestly what makes it, so beautiful, is that the amount of effort that goes into it will always sort of reflect whenever you start to actually, vocalize these sorts of things. And it will allow you to like I said, it'll allow you to carry yourself a lot better in many different scenarios, whether it be with your friends or your family, or when it comes to like, finding jobs or finding partners. Like it's just overall it's just extremely beneficial. And I think that is probably the real relationship between, the beauty and truth, because there's a I wouldn't say it's like a beautiful thing to know you're right, because that sounds kind of, what's the word, like, I guess, narcissistic. um but it's great to know that you can find certain truths and you can relate them with other people. You can discuss them with other people. You can, like I said, come to a collective conclusion with other people that are like-minded, and maybe with people that share different opinions than you. It's and I guess opinions aren't the truth, right? But like you can greater understand things that are true by coming to that collective conclusion, which is another reason why we definitely need to be a lot more open when it comes to, talking with other people. You need to be more willing to talk to other people and not stay to yourself. That's a lesson that I've still kind of I'm very good with, online, but it's maybe something I should still work to get better at in the real world, right? Because I'm definitely, I would say, still more reserved IRL than I am online. But yeah, that's probably the best way I can put this question. It's a really, really good question. There's many different ways you could answer it. Nearing the end here, what is it that inspires you to keep moving towards your dreams each day? That's a tough one. I think the main thing that's motivated me is to, not even just outside of music, is to, I want people to I don't want people to like go through the sort of things that I went through in like early early internet days for me, like 2015, 2016, especially 2019. That was bad. I was bad. I don't want people to go, like, I don't want others to end up going through what I went through. So I've made it kind of like my mission whenever it comes to like interpersonal relationships to be present in for those people, because I didn't necessarily have the friends that were present for me. Like, obviously I have my family and I appreciate that deeply, but I'm more so talking like I didn't have the friends in my circle that were willing to be there for me whenever I like really needed it. And when they were, it was always really like shallow, or just doing it out of a feeling of obligation more though than a feeling of like empathy. And like I don't want that. I don't want that to see that happen to other people. So I do go out of my way to make sure that I'm there for other people. And I just want basically a better future once I'm not here. Like, that's one of the big goals whenever it comes to my ideology, is to build not only the possibility, but pull through and build a better world for the people that'll come after me. And like this, it applies to everyone, even people that I like don't even like. Like, I want the people after me to have a better life than I had, which is like, it's it's a lot that goes into it, obviously, but I've gone through so much, I guess, like personal growth over the span of these, especially since leaving in-person university at the start of, I think it was at the start of 2025. I've just gone through like this sort of, I guess, exponential growth since then. And I just want to be able to help other people get to that point, because obviously I can only do so much. It matters how they end up responding to it, but I want to be able to be there for people, and I want to be a better I guess a better example for other people than how I guess treated myself. And I've had this way of thinking ever since I was, I guess, really, really young, and it has been to both my benefit and detriment, because as obviously whenever you do something like that, you do end up leaving yourself to focus more on other people than you do on yourself. And I definitely did feel the consequences of not focusing enough on myself, because I ended up doing so much for other people that I was not focusing on the underlying issues that I had, and it definitely ended up spiraling to become something very, very bad. But thankfully I did end up pulling myself out of it, and I had other people there to help me get pulled out of it. So I just want to that is one of the main things that inspires me 100%. And obviously it's just the continued self-growth in all aspects of life is another big thing that really inspires me to pursue the dreams that I have. You know, like I said, like in the whole, like I said in my artist thing, it's all about having fun. If not having fun, it's not it's cooked. So that's probably the biggest inspiration to pursue my dreams, is to I want to be able to build a better world for the people after me and the people around me currently. And finally, we have the last question. I just want to say thank you to everyone that provided a question. These were all very, very good, and I'm very glad that you guys agreed to help me with this. And I think this question is the best one to have last. So, what exactly do you want to see happen within the boundaries of Slushwave? How exactly would you make something happen? There's a lot of ways you can answer this question, honestly. And I guess the angle that I'll go at it from is, again, the community angle. And I'll use the PSA that I put out recently on my main account, where we need to, or I guess, no, we need to hold a lot more smoke for the people within the community, right? Not in terms of like, oh, we just need to witch hunt everybody. No, we need to start actually holding people accountable for the things that they say and do. And whether that becomes like there's some people that they're gonna have to let go, okay? There's some people that we're gonna have to let go, because we can't stand for bigotry within this community, especially when this community was basically built off the backs of minorities, okay? It may be, and this applies to so many different communities, but it may be dominated by white people, right? But we need to put the majority of our energy into protecting the minorities that find their way into this community and promote this community to them, so that they are more likely to then promote it within their communities, and will allow the community continue to become more and more diverse, okay? Because the main reason why, and I think Abe asked me this question, I don't know how long ago it was, I think a couple months ago, but he asked me, he's like, why aren't there many people of color within this community? And I told him, bro, not only are people motivated to go for different avenues of things of interest that will turn money, obviously. Then there's the class aspect of it, that the technology may not be available to them to make said music. Then it gets to the point where if they are able to make said music, they're usually promoted to make a different kind of music, one that would become a lot more mainstream or a lot more popular in order to quote unquote blow up, and they're not as worried about joining in on a community like this. And even then, if they are able to find interest within this community, there then becomes the problem of that there's a lot of, and I mean, I guess it's not like a rampant issue, right? But it's a very obvious issue that doesn't get, I guess, addressed very often, is the fact that there's a lot of weirdos that end up sneaking their way into these communities, right? So we, as a community, need to be much more what's the word? We need to be much more vigilant about the people that we let around, right? And we need to be asking these harder questions that will reveal these beliefs of people, because the main way that they get in is because they'll try to hide their beliefs, because if no one asks about it, it'll never come up, right? It'll never become an issue. But then it gets to a point where it does come up, and then it does become a big issue, and then now everyone has to deal with basically the fallout of that, or allow them to become allow them to just run through with literally like without getting checked, because they never, I guess, revealed their hand, right? And we just have to become better at not only identifying these people before they start, I guess, running about or just start trying to like embed themselves within the community, but we just need to be better at actually having these sorts of conversations and being a lot more open to having these conversations, instead of running into the usual guise of like escapism. Because whenever we decide to continue to run away from these problems, we become complicit in them, and it drives people away from actually wanting to be a part of the community, which is the big main idea of the whole question of why there aren't as many POC within the space. And being one myself, I want to see more people that look like me interested in the stuff that I'm interested in, right? So that the only way that's gonna happen is if we not physically check these people, like fight them. No, that's not what I mean. But like we need to like hard check these people, or else they're going to drive away people who are perhaps interested in joining. And if we don't do that, then the space is gonna forever be very I guess barred of entry for those who would be interested in it. And like you can get a long way just by, you know, like actually caring about other people, right? You can't, like, being selfish is like probably one of the biggest downfalls within the community. I guess not being selfish, more so I guess being like arrogant, right? So we have to do better, okay? Or else it's just gonna the same dominance is just gonna persist, and it's gonna allow a lot of very weird people to continue to think that shit is just cool and that they can just run through the place and never get checked, not even once. And like we need to destigmatize the act of confronting these people in hopes of like what's the word? And I was like, oh, it's gonna look bad if we like call them out. Like, no, we can't do that. We cannot be scared to confront these people, okay? Because if we're scared to confront these people, that's exactly what they want. Because then they'll never have to face the consequences of their actions until it's too late, and then we have to repeat the cycle. So how exactly would I make something like that happen is I'm already like having to, I guess, hold my tongue a lot of times when it comes to like the public servers. But like if I see something that's weird, I'm gonna make note of it. And if it's even, I'm gonna bring it to the people that are, you know, like the people that are running the server, like, yo, this is weird, you should probably do something about this. Or, yo, this is weird, you should definitely keep an eye out on this before it becomes worse, right? Like I'm going to look out for the other people like within the community, right? Because I want it to be a better space for everyone, and I want, like I said, more people that look like me to be interested in this stuff, because that would be really cool. But yeah, that's the main idea of why how I would make that happen, and why I want the community to hold more smoke for weirdos that try to get into the community. I've probably said that word so many times and it's really annoying. I'm sorry, but you get the point. And that will be the end of the AMA. Like I said, I want to thank every single person that provided responses to this question. These questions. These were all very, very, very good questions. and I had a lot of fun answering them all. It was finally good to be able to talk about a lot of this stuff, you know, on record. Put it on record, put it out there. It's very nice to be able to actually finally talk about all this stuff. And like I said, I want to say thank you for continuing to support me. Wither is out now. Listen to that. You guys have already shown crazy love to that album, and I cannot thank you guys enough. Thank you. In terms of URL Fest, like I said earlier in this video, there's gonna be a URL Fest. I don't know when this video will be finished and be going up, but on the 20th and 21st of this month, because I know the video will be out this month, there's going to be Fiji Fest. I'm going to be doing a URL set, which I did the visuals for me, Hayden, and Gotha. Please be there. You will not want to miss it. There's some unreleased in that set that is absolutely crazy. You cannot miss that. Be there. In July, I don't think I've announced this publicly, but I will be at SignalCon 2026. I don't know when in July it's going to be, but I will be there. So I hope you are also there, because there's some very special things I did for that set, and I hope you guys are there to enjoy it. And then obviously the one that is public knowledge at this point, I will be at Slushroy 2026 as URL set. I am so proud to be there. Thanks to you guys that I am there, and I hope to see you guys there. It will be at the end of August 27th to August 30th. I don't know what day specifically I will be performing, whether it be the 27th whether it be day 1 or day 2, but just know that I hope when that information comes out, I will be sure to plaster it everywhere, and I hope to see you guys all there. I also want to say shout out to every single person that bought that had a good trip tape. I want to massive shout outs to Valkyrie Tapes for doing that album. The tape came out amazing. It looks so clean. I did do a big part in designing it, and she did added on some edits to make the spine look a lot more clear. But again, thank you to all the people, every single one of you who've shown me support to get me to this position. Thank you for asking all these questions, and hopefully I will be able to do something else like this maybe sometime next year, maybe, but that'll be enough from me. Thank you guys for watching to this point. Check out Wither, out now. Check out all the people that were featured in this video as well that I mentioned, because they're all great. And I will be seeing you guys next time.